But we're starting with breaking news this morning. Good morning to you here in the U.S. and our viewers joining us from around the world. A U.S. Special Forces operation took place in Syria today.
Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr is on the phone with us. Barbara, what do you know this morning?
Good morning, Christy and Victor. This is a stunning U.S. Special Operations raid deep into Syria, deep into ISIS territory. Overnight, a number of U.S. Special Operations Forces conducted a helicopter raid into eastern Syria to capture a man named Abu Sayyaf. He was killed in the raid. He was a senior ISIS leader who was not just known as heading ISIS's oil and gas operations, where they get so much of their funding from, but believed to be directly and increasingly involved in ISIS command and control operations. This information coming to us at CNN from sources familiar with what happened on the ground in eastern Syria overnight. All the U.S. troops returned safely, we are told. What happened is they flew by helicopter into this area in eastern Syria. They went to a residence where where obviously they knew he was. A firefight ensued. He fought back. Abu Sayyaf was killed at that point, but they were able to capture his wife, an Iraqi woman named Sayyaf. She, too, is believed to be very heavily involved in ISIS operations, also in human trafficking. So there's a lot of concern as to what she may know about the human trafficking and various human operations that ISIS engages in. They also captured a good deal of, obviously, belongings, information, intelligence from this operation, and they hope to interrogate her now and go through everything that they got, as they often do when they conduct these raids. They scoop up everything they can find and gain some more valuable intelligence about what ISIS is up to. But behind all of that, I think you can't really overstate how unusual this is for U.S. troops to go by helicopter, to go deep into Syria, to be involved in a firefight like this, and to be able to get out. Everybody got out, we are told. The only similar operation that took place was several months ago. That was a failed operation to try and recover some U.S. hostages. President Obama signing off on that, as he would have with this one, because clearly the administration believing it was worth the risk. So again, U.S. Special Operations Forces, we are talking some of the most elite U.S. forces in the U.S. military, engaging in this helicopter raid overnight deep into Syria. One top ISIS leader killed, his wife, also heavily involved in ISIS operations, captured, undergoing interrogation back in Iraq. Christy? Victor?
Barbara, have you heard anything regarding any intel on hostages that they may be looking for as well, if they got that deep into Syrian territory?
Yeah, the sources who are familiar with this, with what did happen on the ground overnight, say that they did also capture and free what we are being told is a Yazidi woman who was being held by them. The Yazidis, of course, a minority sect in that region that have suffered so terribly at the hands of ISIS. Probably too soon to say what she may know, but they are obviously going to talk to her and find out what she knows, what she has seen, what she may be able to tell them. This is very delicate business, because if the wife, Sayyaf, was involved in human trafficking operations, as they clearly believe she was, the issue will be, when they interrogate her, does she in fact know anything about any of the Western hostages, U.S. hostages, or indeed any of the hostages that ISIS has captured over the months, treated so brutally, and even killed. So they're going to want to find out everything this woman may know.
I wonder if there has been any indication of the notification or the cooperation of the Syrian government here. We know that they too have been fighting ISIS. Were they notified before this? Do we know yet?
To be candid, we don't know that yet. I think it would be very doubtful that they would get any notification. What I should mention, in these types of U.S. commando operations, what happens is the U.S. will also send up what they call air cover. There will be fighter jets overhead. There will be reconnaissance assets. There will be jamming of communications. So they would have had aircraft overhead to keep an eye out if there were any Syrian regime forces in the area, possibly but doubtful, because this particular area of eastern Syria is very much held by ISIS, not someplace the regime would have been in very recently. But you raise a great point. There were additional this notion of it was the commandos on the ground that went in, conducted the operation, but there were additional U.S. assets, as there always are, overhead, keeping watch, able to make sure that as and if the U.S. troops came under fire, they could support them by any other means, dropping bombs, engaging in ground fire. Those U.S. Special Operations Forces would have had a lot of backup to be able to conduct their mission and get out. But I think the other thing behind the scenes here, again, is what's sort of right in front of our face that no one is saying is to send U.S. Special Operations Forces this deep into Syria on this kind of risky mission, the intelligence, where did it come from? How did the U.S. know that this ISIS leader would be at that point, at that exact point in time, that he would be at that location? Because when the U.S. troops took off in their helicopters, they would have had intelligence telling him he was right there. So what this tells all of us, without knowing the answer, is the U.S. has some sort of specific intelligence, real-time intelligence, about what is going on in certain places in Syria, because they went in knowing he'd be there. And the big unanswered question is, how did they know?